The idea of writing your first CV can be scary, especially if you don't have any experience. So today, we're going to look at how you can write your first CV even without any experience. In this video, we'll cover the CV format, which covers contact details, personal profile, education, work experience, skills and qualities, interests and references. When it comes to the format of your CV, it can vary person to person quite drastically, and that's just because there are so many different ways for you to actually present your CV. With time and experience, you might decide to reformat your CV. For example, you could choose to include a link to your own personal portfolio website if you was an artist or videographer or graphic design, anything along those lines. But before we jump into any of those headings, there are 3 rules that all CVs should follow. So what are the rules? It's keep it brief, keep it clear, and keep it accurate. 1 to 2 sides of A4 at font size 11 or 12 is best. Make sure it's easy and inviting to read, and double check your spelling, punctuation, and grammar. So that's the 3 rules all CVs should be following. But now let's jump into the actual CV format itself from start to finish. Starting us off, we have contact details, which should be at the very top of your CV, and they need to include your name, phone number, and email address. Make sure you provide up-to-date contact details that you respond to regularly, and check for any typos. Otherwise, a potential employer won't be able to reach out to you if they are interested. Pick an email address that is appropriate. You do not have to use an email address that you made when you was younger. You are allowed to make a new one if you need to, but just make sure it looks sensible and professional. Then finally, do not overshare your personal information. Nobody needs to know or wants to know your age or national insurance number or your address quite yet. If they do need those details, they'll ask for that further down the line. Okay, so next is personal profile, and this is your chance to make a really good first impression. And most likely, it's what the employer will read first, making it very important. Your personal profile is a short paragraph to highlight your best skills, your best qualities, and to just introduce yourself a little bit. Sometimes it helps to break it down to these 3 sections: who you are and your current situation, what you can offer, and why you want the role. It can be really useful to have a job in mind when you're making your CV, so you can actually tailor it specifically to that role. For example, if you're applying to a cafe, you might add that you have exceptional communication skills and that you're really excited to work in a customer service role. Bearing that in mind, it's a really good idea to actually update your CV every time you apply to a different role, especially if it's very different to the previous roles you've applied for. Work experience. The bit we've all been waiting for. This bit is all about listing any jobs or other work experience you've done. Make sure you always include the most recent at the top, going down in chronological order again. So we're going to start with the more traditional work experience first. But if you feel like you don't have any of that, please don't worry. We'll get to what you can put instead in just a moment. So more traditional work experience could be a paid job. Maybe you did a paper round for a local shop near your house, even if it was only for a couple of hours on a Saturday once a week. Even if it is very informal and short term, or maybe you might have even quit after a couple of weeks. Don't worry, we've all been there. But even with all of that, this still counts as work experience that you can and should include on your first CV. On top of paid work experience, there's also unpaid work experience. Maybe with your school, you possibly did a work experience placement with a local business, or maybe in your spare time, you volunteered for a charitable cause. Even these types of unpaid work experience should be included. But what about if you have no work experience whatsoever? As somebody writing your first CV, it's very common for you to think that you don't have any work experience, and that's completely fine. The key here is that you've just got to get a little bit creative with what you put. Because the truth is, even if you don't have work experience, you probably do have experience of some sort that you could put. Think about all those informal, unpaid, odd jobs that you've done for all of your friends and family. Have you ever had the responsibility of taking a dog out for a walk on your own? Or have you ever achieved your goal of cutting a bush back when you've been asked to help with the gardening. These odd jobs can go on and on and on. Have you ever done babysitting, cleaning, pet sitting, or maybe use the captain of your local football team? I'm sure you can think of something to put down as an odd job. Whether you've included paid work experience, unpaid work experience, volunteering, or one of our more creative odd jobs, the most important part is listing your main responsibilities and achievements you had in each of those positions. A good idea here again is to think about the role you're looking to actually apply for and think about which responsibilities and achievements you've had that they'd be interested in. Good example for this, maybe the job description has said that you would be responsible for a pair of keys to the office, and you may have had the responsibility of holding the keys to one of your neighbours' houses to top up the food for their cat or dog whilst they're away on holiday. Education's next, and you should start with what you've studied most recently at the top, going down in a chronological order. If you have your grades, fantastic, get them in there now. But even if you don't have your grades, you can actually include your predicted grades. But you do need to make sure that you make it very clear that they're predicted grades and not your actual grades. If you're in a situation where you don't have any grades or predicted grades to include, please don't panic, that's all right. Instead, think about what you have studied, even if you haven't studied it to completion, or even if you've not achieved a grade. Just think about what skills and knowledge you have already taken away from it and include that instead. Skills and qualities are next on your CV, and for this section, we're going to split it into hard skills and soft skills. So what is a hard skill? Hard skills are objective, quantifiable skills gained through training, school, or work experiences. Hard skills are often usually something that is taught or learnt, including anything you've taught yourself to. So an example of a hard skill could be that you've taught yourself how to use Premiere Pro so you can edit some memes for social media. And this could be really valuable if you're applying for a role which has responsibilities for social media within it. Equally, you might be proficient in Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, Excel, music production software, Photoshop. Just think about any skills you've learned before. Then we have soft skills. Soft skills are non-technical skills that describe how you work and interact with others. Unlike hard skills, they're not necessarily something you'll learn in a course. This is a chance to show your core skills, and they could be anything from being responsible, mature, creative, motivated, a problem solver. The list just goes on and on and on. But sometimes it can be hard to think about which of these core soft skills you have and which ones you should include on your CV as well. So what we've done is prepared some for you, which we put on the screen now. So you might want to use some of these even. So I'd recommend that you take a screenshot of these whilst they're on the screen, or you could just download them as a PDF in the description below. The key here is to once again think about the role you're looking to apply for and think about what soft skills thereafter as well. You could even literally read through their job description and see if they include any skills in particular and include those specific soft skills on your CV. But please make sure you only include skills that you actually have. Don't say you know how to program a space station or drive a submarine if you actually don't know how. And once you have the list of skills, it's a good idea to actually think of examples where you've used your skills. And even better, why not try to link them to the work experience you've already put in your CV? As an example, you might attend football practice once a week, which shows dedication, commitment, and good team working skills. Okay, we're at interests, and this is the penultimate part of your first CV. So in this section, the employers want to know your interests, mainly because it helps them understand who you are as a person. So try to think of examples which shows your passion or makes you really stand out, or can be linked to the role you're applying for. Okay, so let's go through a few good examples. The first example could be, I love tennis and I go to classes every single week. I enjoy keeping fit and I like to practice in my spare time. One day, I would love to play for a national team. This example shows passion and dedication to a hobby. It also shows that the person has a well-rounded lifestyle and is very motivated. Okay, a second example could be, I am really interested in geocaching and I go on walks with my younger brother to find and set geocaches. Sometimes we even make tiny figures or miniature houses to leave for other people to find. This example is quite unusual and will likely stick in the employer's mind. Anything that shows skills and helps the employer to remember you is great, and it shows the person is active, creative, and cares for their brother. Okay, and the final example is, in my spare time, I do a lot of gaming on my PC. This has led to me to learn more about computer parts, software, and how to build a well-running PC. I've also learned some coding, as I'm trying to build a small game using YouTube tutorials. Now this one would be ideal to include on your CV as part of an application for an IT or a games related role. However, the transferable skills here also show that the person can research, learn independently, and have a lot of motivation. All of these examples are very different, and they all show skills that are attractive to employers. Now, you just need to think about what hobbies or interests you have that show attractive skills too. Okay. References may be requested if the employer is considering hiring you, and the employer may ask to contact your referees before formally offering you the job. A referee is someone who can give an overview of you as a person and what you might be like as an employee. Therefore, it's important that you have 2 or 3 people in mind to be your referees. The person you are should know you and be able to talk about your skills and qualities. So who could you ask? Think about your tutors, teachers, community leaders such as a football coach or a Scouts leader, someone you volunteered for, or even a relative or friend that you've worked for. Referencing can be quite a formal process, but it's nothing to worry about. It's much more flexible when it comes to your first job. Often enough, they won't even ask for your referees, but it's better to be on the safe side and have them there just in case you need them. And when putting references on your CV, it's best not to actually put the references on there. Instead, put references are available on request. And make sure you always remember to ask that person that they're happy to be your referee before actually giving out their contact details. So that's everything to include on your first CV, but don't click off of the video yet. We're not quite finished yet. Once you've written your first CV, there's a few final steps that we need to follow. First, get a fresh pair of eyes to have a read through your CV and provide you with some constructive feedback. Whether it's your first CV or your billionth CV, there's always something that can be improved. Then you need to do a final grammar and spelling check. Yes, that means triple or quadruple checking everything, especially making sure that you've put the correct contact details. And finally, save your CV as a PDF file with your name in the title before you send it to anyone. This is really important because a PDF file will assure that your document stays nice and tidy and none of the formatting changes and it looks exactly how you made it. Whereas a Word document might look different if it's opened in Google Docs. And of course it's the same for in reverse, but PDF will always be the same, so make sure it's a PDF. Then make sure that your name is in the title. This is really important because it helps the employer to find your CV easily. And of course, we always want to make it as easy as possible for the employer. They'll definitely appreciate an easier life, trust me. I'm hoping that this video has helped you to think about how you would like to write your first CV. And if you'd like further support with your CV, get in touch with the National Careers Service, where you can access professional careers advice for free via web chat, telephone, or face-to-face with a qualified advisor in your local area. Whichever option you choose, they'll definitely be able to help you with your CV further. Personally, I used my first CV to secure a position as an apprentice. And in this video, I show you how to find an apprenticeship. So if that sounds good to you, why are you still here? Click the video already.